Elias Ward had always believed that a soldier's life was shaped by choices: where to stand, whom to trust, what to protect. But as he stood in the quiet, silver-lit hall of the Solari Dominion's High Court, he realized something new. Sometimes, life made the choices for you. He was a prisoner of an alien empire, but not the way humans imagined. There were no chains, no dark cells, no harsh guards shouting orders. The Solari did not believe in physical punishment. They believed in something far more unnerving: observation. Every step Elias took inside the vast crystalline palace was watched. Every breath was measured by glowing sensors that floated through the air like drifting sparks. The Solari studied him the same way humans studied unusual stars. Carefully, curiously, and from a safe distance. Elias kept his face calm, his posture straight. Even in captivity, he carried the quiet strength of a human soldier. It was not arrogance, just discipline. The Solari valued order, and he had decided he would give them exactly that. If they expected him to break, they would be disappointed. A soft chime echoed through the hall. 3 Solari officers, tall, graceful beings with silver-blue skin and eyes like polished crystals, approached with their usual smooth, floating steps. "You are requested by the High Matriarch," one of them said, voice calm as flowing water. Elias nodded. "Lead the way." They guided him through corridors that curved like living rivers of light. Solari architecture always felt slightly alive to him. Walls glowed softly, as if they breathed. Doors melted open without sound. Everything had an otherworldly beauty that made it hard to remember he was a prisoner here. The officers stopped before 2 enormous doors that rose like carved moonstone pillars. They parted silently, revealing the grand chamber of Matriarch Vera Soloon, ruler of 1/3 of the known sector. Elias stepped inside. The chamber was wide, circular, and quiet, filled with drifting ribbons of light that hung in the air like slow-moving auroras. At its center stood the matriarch herself, a tall, elegant celery woman with markings of iridescent gold across her temples, the symbol of her rank. Vera watched Elias with a calm expression that never revealed what she truly thought. She was a leader who understood the weight of power and carried it with steady, silent strength. "Human Elias Ward," she said, her voice soft but commanding. "After reviewing your behavior these past weeks, we have made a decision regarding your role in the Dominion." Elias stood straight. "I assume this is about my detainment status." "In a way," Vera replied, her crystal-like eyes narrowing with interest. "Your conduct has been consistent, disciplined, predictable in a way our analysts find unusual." "Predictable?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "Humans are not known for that." Vera's lips curved slightly, though Solari's smiles were faint and delicate. "Precisely why you intrigue us." She gestured with her hand. One of the officers stepped forward and activated a hovering display. A young Solari girl appeared in the projected image, slender, bright-eyed, her silver hair pulled back in a high tail that shimmered like liquid metal. Her expression carried a bold spark, a kind of restless intelligence rarely seen in Solari youth. "This is Lyra Soluna, my daughter," Vera said quietly. "The heir to my position." Elias studied the image, unsure where this was leading. "She is young and curious," the matriarch continued. "Too curious. She asks questions our culture is not ready to answer. She explores ideas our society considers dangerous, and recently, she has developed a growing interest in your species." Elias exhaled slowly. "I see." Vera stepped closer, her gaze steady. "Our advisors suggested limiting her access to human information, controlling her environment, restricting her education. Typical elite parenting," Elias muttered before he could stop himself. To his surprise, Vera let out a soft breath that almost resembled amusement. "But I," she continued, "believe a controlled influence may be wiser. Someone who can guide her curiosity, temper it, and ensure she does not wander into political traps." Elias felt a strange shift in his stomach. "And you think I'm that someone?" "I do," the matriarch answered simply. "You will serve as her guardian." Elias blinked. "Guardian? I'm a soldier, not a babysitter. You are a human who refuses to lose his composure even in captivity." Vera replied. You are also the only individual she listens to. Elias frowned. We've never even met. She has been observing you, Vera said. Quietly, intently. She finds your behavior admirable. Elias folded his arms. Forgive me for saying this, but assigning a foreign prisoner to guard the heir of your entire dominion seems like a strange decision, perhaps for humans. The matriarch tilted her head faintly. But the Solari do not fear the presence of ideas. We fear the absence of understanding. He didn't fully understand what that meant, but he felt the seriousness behind it. Vera approached him until she was only a few steps away. You are no longer confined to the observation chambers. From this moment, you will be given a formal role, a responsibility, and quarters suited for your new station. Elias met her gaze, searching for hidden motives, but the matriarch's face remained calm and unreadable. This is an unusual request, he admitted. It is, she agreed. But you are the only one who fits it. A silence settled between them, a long, steady pause that felt like a held breath. At last, Elias sighed. If this is what's required, I'll do it. But you should know something. Vera raised an eyebrow. Speak. I don't serve out of fear, he said. I don't serve because you're powerful, or because I'm a prisoner. If I protect someone, it's because I choose to, and because they need it. Vera studied him closely, and for a moment her expression softened with something like respect. Then perhaps, she whispered, you are exactly what Lyra needs. Elias's new quarters were far more comfortable than the observation room he had been kept in. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and a window showed a sweeping view of the Solari capital city towers like crystal spears, roads formed of flowing energy, and thousands of flying platforms drifting like quiet birds. He barely had time to settle before the door chimed. When it opened, a young Solari girl stepped inside. Lyra Saloon. She wore a simple white learning suit, decorated with faint patterns that responded to her emotional state, shifting colors from calm blue to curious silver as she approached. Her eyes sparkled with fascination the moment she saw him. You're human, she said, sounding both excited and relieved. Elias smiled politely. So I've been told. Lyra circled him once, observing him with the focus of a scientist studying a rare crystal. You stand differently than Solari. You breathe differently. You carry your weight in your shoulders, not in your core. Why? Because humans are built differently, Elias said. Different muscles. Different center of balance. That's interesting, Lyra said brightly. Most Solari guards walk like drifting wind currents. But you look like a mountain that learned to move, Elias chuckled. That's a new one. She clasped her hands behind her back, rocking slightly. My mother said you would be my guardian. Is that true? Yes, Elias answered honestly. I'll be looking after you. Her expression softened with something rare relief. Good. I'm tired of everyone being afraid to tell me the truth. Elias tilted his head. What do you mean? Everyone here treats me like a fragile crystal, she said. Too important to touch. Too important to talk to honestly. But you don't look like someone who lies. I try not to. Lyra stepped closer, eyes shining. Will you tell me what humans really think of us? Elias hesitated. That depends. Do you want the polite version? Or the real one? The real one, she whispered. He took a slow breath. Humans think the Solari are beautiful, brilliant, and incredibly advanced, but also intimidating. Hard to understand. Maybe even a little cold. Lyra looked thoughtful, not offended. Cold? Because we hide our feelings? Maybe, Elias said. Or maybe because humans expect emotion to be loud. Yours is quiet. She considered this, then nodded slowly. I like that answer. Elias folded his arms. So, what exactly do you expect from me as your guardian? Lyra smiled the first true, open smile he had seen from a Solari. I expect you to be human. He blinked. That's all? That's everything, she said softly. Because humans, you feel things in a way we don't. And I want to understand that. Elias realized then that this assignment, strange as it was, might be more important than he thought. This wasn't about guarding the daughter of an alien ruler. It was about bridging a gap between two worlds. And maybe, just maybe, helping a lonely girl who wanted nothing more than a little truth. Elias had been many things in his life: a soldier, a trainer, a negotiator during tense missions, but he had never been a guardian to an alien teenager, and certainly not one who was the heir to a powerful interstellar empire. Yet, as the days passed inside the Solari Palace, he found the role shaping itself around him like a new uniform he hadn't chosen but somehow fit into. Lyra Saloon, the young heir, was unlike anyone Elias had ever met. She was bright, curious, restless, and far too bold for her people's comfort. The Solari valued calm and predictability. Lyra had a heart that raced far ahead of both. Their first week together was a quiet storm of questions. Even on the first morning, Elias found Lyra waiting outside his quarters before he had even finished getting dressed. "You take too long preparing," she told him without greeting. "I take exactly as long as a human needs," he replied, tying his boots. "That is too long." "That's your opinion." "It is correct." Elias could only shake his head. "Let me wake up before you start arguments." "All right," but she would only smile sweetly in a way she knew annoyed him. Despite her stubbornness, Lyra listened. When Elias spoke, she gave him her full attention. Even when she pretended she wasn't, she wanted to understand humans, how they thought, how they dealt with emotions, how they made decisions without a collective consensus guiding them. Humans were unpredictable, and Lyra found unpredictability exciting. Every day, they walked through the palace learning halls, gardens built from glowing plants, and observation terraces that showed the bustling Solari capital below. Elias watched the world through human eyes. Lyra watched him watching the world. Her favorite place quickly became the Harmonic Garden, a wide circular space filled with floating stones that emitted soft musical tones when touched. Elias found her there one afternoon, sitting on a large stone shaped like a drifting cloud, lightly tapping the smaller stones around her to create a slow, peaceful tune. "You humans have music too, right?" she asked, when she noticed him approaching. "Yes," Elias said, taking a seat beside her. "More kinds than I can count. Are they all like this?" She tapped again. The stone responded with a calm, bell-like note. "Some are," he said. "Some are much louder. Some are fast. Some are sad. Some are messy." Lyra's eyes widened. "Messy music? Why would anyone want that?" "Because messy music feels human," Elias said with a small smile. "It reminds us that life isn't perfect." She considered this for a moment. "Solari music isn't messy. It's very ordered. That's probably why some humans find it peaceful." Lyra leaned back on her hands. "Maybe that's why I want to learn human music. Maybe I want something that is not perfect all the time." Elias didn't comment, but he understood. Lyra had lived her whole life inside a palace of expectations. Perfection was demanded of her. Perfection was praised. Perfection was her cage. One day, as they walked through an education corridor, a group of young Solari nobles watched them closely. Elias could feel their eyes, like small pinpricks on his back. "Why are they staring?" he murmured. "They think it's strange that I walk with a human," Lyra said calmly. "Actually, they think almost everything I do is strange. Does that bother you?" "No," she said. "But it bothers them. That is why they stare." Elias smirked. "Keep doing it then." Lyra let out a soft laugh, a clear, bright sound that always surprised him. Solari rarely laughed openly. Their emotions came out in small gestures, a flicker in their eyes, a shift in the aura patterns on their skin. Lyra's laughter felt almost human. The moment lightened until one of the nobles stepped forward. He was older than Lyra, tall and dressed in the shimmering gold of a political apprentice. "Lyra Saloon," he said respectfully, though his eyes were sharp. "A word?" Lyra's expression hardened a little. "I am with my guardian. It will only take a moment." Elias studied the noble quietly. He carried himself with the stiff confidence of someone who believed he knew better than everyone else. Elias didn't like that type. He had trained too many recruits like him. Lyra nodded, stepping a little away. Elias stayed close enough to hear but far enough to remain polite. The noble leaned close to Lyra and began explaining something in a low, urgent tone. Lyra's eyebrows knit together. Her skin markings flickered with a faint warning glow. Solari frustration. The conversation grew tenser. The noble gestured sharply, trying to persuade her. Lyra shook her head. Elias saw it clearly. Someone trying to force their ideas onto her. He stepped forward lightly. "Everything all right?" Lyra hesitated, then answered. "He wants me to support a new political reform he and his mentor are proposing." Elias nodded slowly. "And do you want to support it?" "No," Lyra said simply. "I don't agree with it." The noble frowned. "You do not understand the long-term strategy. You must show unity for the sake of leadership." Lyra crossed her arms. "Unity without understanding is not leadership. It is obedience." Elias raised an eyebrow. That was very human. The noble looked irritated now. "You will jeopardize your future role." Elias stepped forward gently, not imposing, just present. She already gave her answer. Respect it. The noble glanced at Elias with thinly veiled disdain. "You are a prisoner. This matter does not concern you." "Actually," Elias said calmly, as her guardian, "it concerns me more than anyone." The noble's nostrils flared a Solari sign of discomfort. Without another word, he turned sharply and walked away. Lyra let out a slow breath. "Thank you," she said softly. "He didn't look dangerous," Elias replied. "Just pushy." "He is from a powerful family," Lyra said. "People listen to him even when he is wrong." "And what about you? Do you listen to him?" Lyra shook her head. "No. I listen to people who speak with honesty." "And do I?" Elias asked with a small smile. "You speak with honesty even when it is rude," she said. "That is how I know it is real." After that incident, Lyra trusted him more openly. She asked him questions she would never ask the Solari tutors. What is fear like for humans? Why do humans argue so loudly? Why do humans laugh when nothing is funny? What does it feel like to miss someone? Why do humans dream, even when dreams make no sense? Elias answered each question with patience, giving her not perfect truths, but honest ones. One afternoon, she asked a question that made him pause. "Do you miss your home?" she asked, while they walked through a long corridor lined with glowing murals. Elias took a slow breath. "Yes. Is it painful?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But missing something means it mattered." Lyra looked down at her hands. "I do not know what that feels like." "You will," he said gently. She seemed strange after that, quiet, thoughtful, like she was carrying a new weight on her shoulders. The matriarch watched everything from a distance. Vera Saloon had always believed her daughter needed protection from the outside world, but she had never realized Lyra might also need protection from the inside, from expectations, pressure, and the silent loneliness of being heir to an empire. But Elias understood. He did not treat Lyra like a fragile heir. He treated her like a person. A normal teenager with confusion, dreams, doubts. It was something no Solari advisor had ever done. One evening, Vera summoned Elias to her chamber. He arrived unsure what to expect. "You have changed her," the matriarch said, not as accusation but observation. "I haven't tried to," Elias replied. "That is exactly why you have succeeded." She studied him closely. Lyra's confidence grows, her curiosity sharpens. She speaks with a new voice. "Your influence on her is evident." Elias didn't know whether that was good or bad. Vera stepped closer. "Tell me honestly, human. Do you guide her because it is your duty?" Elias didn't hesitate. "Both." The matriarch's expression softened by a fraction. "That was rare. Very rare." "She trusts you," Vera said quietly. "More than she trusts anyone else in this palace." There was no jealousy in her voice, only something deeper, realization, and a growing fear. A fear that her daughter would not only depend on this human, but need him. That evening, after Elias returned to his quarters, he found Lyra waiting outside his door again. "You're late," she said. "I was summoned." "By my mother?" "Yes. Lyra's brows knitted slightly. What did she want? Elias looked at her for a long moment. To understand why you trust me. Lyra blinked. Then she said something that surprised him. That is easy, she whispered. I trust you because you tell me the truth even when it hurts. And because when you look at me, you don't see a title. You see me. The simplicity of the statement hit him harder than he expected. Lyra looked away, almost shy. Is that strange? No, Elias said softly. Not strange at all. Standing there in the quiet corridor, Elias realized something powerful. He had not only been assigned to guard the daughter of an empire, he had become part of her world, and she, without knowing it, had become part of his. The Celery Dominion had always been a place of calm order. Every level of society flowed in a predictable pattern, like rivers guided by polished stone. But lately, High Matriarch Vera Solun felt something shifting beneath the quiet surface, something that made her both hopeful and afraid. The change centered around one person, her daughter, Lyra, and the reason for that change was also one person, Elias Ward, the human. Lyra's days were fuller than ever. Her schedule had always been packed with lessons, political training, and cultural education. But now, she approached those tasks with a confidence Vera had rarely seen before. Lyra stood taller, spoke more clearly, and asked questions many adults feared to answer. Even her tutors noticed the difference. Some were impressed, others were cautious, and a few whispered that the human influence might be unpredictable. Unpredictable was not a word Solari leaders liked, but Vera saw something else: growth. Still, she could not ignore the rising tension in the Dominion. A major diplomatic crisis was unfolding. The Council of Outer Sectors argued about the new trade regulations. Some regions threatened to leave the Dominion structure, and whispers of political disagreement grew louder each day. As pressure increased, Lyra became more restless. Elias saw it too. One morning in the Harmonic Garden, Lyra tapped distractedly at the floating stones, but no melody formed. Elias sat beside her, noticing the frustration in her movements. You're tense, he said gently. I'm thinking, Lyra answered softly. You think loudly. She shot him a small glare. Is that a human joke? Yes, he said, and a true one. Lyra sighed and leaned back, her silver hair spilling down her shoulders. Everyone is worried. The entire Dominion feels tight, like glass that will crack if touched. And you? Elias asked. How do you feel? I feel like I'm supposed to do something, Lyra whispered. Something important. But I don't know what. Elias nodded slowly. That's normal. It doesn't feel normal, she said. It feels like I'm standing on the edge of something I can't see. They sat in silence for a long moment. Lyra finally asked, Do humans feel pressure like this? All the time, Elias said honestly. Leadership is heavy in every species. Does it scare you? She asked. Elias thought about it. It used to, but I learned something. What? You don't have to walk through pressure alone. Lyra looked up at him, eyes shining. But I am the heir. Everyone looks to me for answers. That doesn't mean you can't ask for help, Elias replied. Lyra blinked. From who? Anyone who understands you, he said simply. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. Instead, she looked away, but Elias understood. He knew the feeling of being responsible for more than oneself. He knew what it meant to carry expectations, fear, and hope all at once. And he also knew the power of someone who stood at your side, not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to be there. Later that day, Vera received a report from her diplomatic advisors. Lyra had been invited to observe a council session, a symbolic gesture. Usually, heirs attended only as silent observers. But this time, the council wanted her to give a short statement. Something calm, something safe. Lyra agreed, but Vera saw the spark in her daughter's eyes. This would not be a safe speech. She summoned Elias before the event. When Elias entered the grand chamber, Vera dismissed her attendants, leaving only the two of them. She examined him with a steady, almost searching gaze. You have been spending much time with Lyra, Vera said. Yes, Elias answered calmly. It's my role. And outside your role? She asked quietly. Elias didn't look away. She trusts me. I won't break that. Vera lowered her gaze for a moment, then lifted it again. I do not wish for you to break it. I only wish to understand it. She walked slowly to the large window overlooking the capital. When Lyra was young, Vera began. She was quiet, shy, easily overwhelmed by the expectations placed upon her. I worried she would never be ready to take my place. Elias listened carefully. But now, Vera continued, she speaks with a new strength, a new certainty. I recognize it. And yet it is not Solari. It is something different. Human, Elias said gently. Vera nodded. Human. Silence settled between them. You are helping her, Vera admitted. More than I expected. More than I planned. And does that bother you? Elias asked. Vera turned to him. It frightens me. Elias raised his brow. Why? Because if she depends on you, Vera said softly, and you leave, what will she become then? 2. Elias didn't know how to answer. Not yet. When the day of the council meeting arrived, the palace felt charged with silent energy. Thousands watched through holographic feeds. Hundreds sat inside the high chamber. Dozens of political figures whispered predictions. Lyra stood with Elias behind the curtains of the chamber's stage-like platform. She wore formal clothing, white and gold, the colors of an heir. The patterns on her suit glowed faintly, reacting to her rising emotions. I feel sick, Lyra whispered. That's normal, Elias said. Does everyone feel like this before speaking? Only the honest ones. Lyra gave him a weak smile. Elias touched her shoulder lightly, a gesture humans used for comfort, one Solari rarely used. But Lyra closed her eyes at the touch, steadying herself. You'll do fine, Elias said. Just tell the truth. She nodded. When she stepped onto the platform, the entire chamber went silent. The floating lights dimmed. 1,000 eyes, Solari and non-Solari visitors, watched her closely. Lyra took a slow breath. Her voice, when she began, trembled only once. She spoke not like a Solari heir, but like someone who had learned to feel deeply. Someone who had learned to understand people. Not only rules. Her words were calm, but they carried emotion, a rare and startling thing for her culture. She spoke of unity, not through pressure but through understanding. She spoke of listening to fears, not silencing them. She spoke of growth, change, and humility. At one point she said, leadership without empathy is empty. We cannot demand trust, we must earn it. Many in the chamber looked shocked. Others nodded slowly. A ripple of emotion moved through the hall, quiet, but powerful. When she finished, there was no loud applause. Solari did not clap. Instead, the air filled with a gentle glow as members activated their approval lights. It was the Solari version of an ovation. Lyra returned backstage, breathing hard. Elias waited with a proud smile. You did it, he said. Lyra's eyes shimmered. I did, didn't I? Elias nodded. You spoke your truth. That's what matters. Lyra stepped closer to him. I couldn't have done it without you. Elias hesitated. Maybe not. But the words were yours. Lyra looked at him with something warm, something fragile. You always say the right thing. I try. And you succeed, she whispered. Before Elias could respond, the curtain opened. Vera stepped inside. Her expression unreadable. Lyra froze. Vera looked at her daughter for a long moment, then turned to Elias. You have changed her, the matriarch said softly. More than I ever expected. Elias swallowed. I only helped her find her voice. A voice she never used before, Vera replied. Lyra looked between them, almost unsure what her mother felt. Vera stepped close to her daughter and touched her cheek, an intimate gesture for Solari, rarely shown in public. You spoke with strength, Vera said. And with heart. I am proud of you. Lyra's eyes widened with emotion, but then Vera turned to Elias again. And I see now, she continued, that the reason she found her voice is because you gave her the courage to use it. Elias opened his mouth to respond, but Vera raised a hand. "I must face a difficult truth," she whispered. "Lyra needs you." Her voice dropped even lower. "And I am afraid of what will happen when your people come to take you home." The chamber fell silent. Elias felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy mantle. Lyra's eyes lowered, as if she had thought the same thing many times already. For the first time, Elias understood what his presence in the palace truly meant, not just for Lyra, but for the future of an entire empire. The days following Lyra's speech were unlike anything the Kalari Dominion had seen in many cycles. Her words had spread far beyond the council chamber, repeating on public streams, translated into every Solari dialect. Citizens discussed it quietly in their homes, advisors analyzed it in private rooms, and leaders argued over its meaning. But one thing was clear to everyone. Lyra Saloon was no longer just an heir. She had become a voice of her own, and Elias Ward was at the center of it. Since the speech, Lyra seemed lighter. Not relaxed, no heir could ever be truly relaxed, but calmer inside herself. Her thoughts flowed easier. Her questions were sharper. Her confidence steady. She met with tutors, visited council members, and held discussions with young nobles who once ignored her. And through it all, Elias stayed by her side. He didn't direct her. He didn't speak for her. He didn't shape her decisions. He simply stood with her, guiding, steady, human. One afternoon, as they walked through a balcony overlooking the capital, Lyra leaned against the crystal railing as soft wind brushed her silver hair. "Do you think I did something important?" she asked quietly. "You did something honest," Elias replied. "Is that the same thing?" "Usually," he said with a smile. Lyra looked out over the glowing city. "People keep asking me for advice now. It feels strange." "That's leadership," Elias said. "But what if my truth is wrong?" she whispered. Elias shook his head. "Truth isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to speak from the heart." Lyra smiled slightly. "That sounds like something a poet would say." "No," Elias said, grinning. "It sounds like something a tired soldier says when he doesn't know how to explain things the easy way." Lyra laughed softly. Her happiness, simple and pure, made Elias feel something he had not expected: attachment. A deep sense of care he had not intended to grow, but he could not deny it. The Human Coalition finally sent a formal message. They wanted Elias Ward returned. The request spread quickly through diplomatic channels, reaching the palace within hours. Solari law respected such requests. The Dominion and the Coalition were not enemies now, they were only cautious neighbors. For most Solari leaders, sending Elias back was obvious. For Vera Saloon, it was not. She read the message in silence, her advisors waiting around her. When she dismissed them, she sat alone for a long time, thinking. Then she summoned Elias. When Elias entered the matriarch's private chamber, he sensed the tension at once. Vera did not stand tall as usual. Instead, she sat near the wide window, her gaze drifting over the shimmering lights of her city. "Human Elias Ward," she said softly. "Your people have requested your return." Elias nodded slowly. "I expected this." "You do not look pleased," Vera observed. "I'm conflicted," he admitted. Vera looked at him with calm curiosity. "Because of Lyra?" Elias didn't answer immediately. But silence itself was an answer. The matriarch took a slow breath. "She is changing in ways I hoped for, and in ways I never imagined. And yet," she whispered, "I fear what will happen if you leave now." Elias approached, stopping a respectful distance away. "She is strong. She'll keep growing." "Strength needs foundation," Vera said. "And she has built too much of that foundation on you." Elias's jaw tightened. He knew it was true. "She relies on you," Vera continued. "She listens when she would ignore others. She speaks because you encourage her. You have given her something we could not, a sense of emotional balance. And that frightens you," Elias said gently. "It does," the matriarch admitted. "Because if I let you go, I fear she will lose part of what she has become." Elias lowered his gaze. "Then what do you want to do?" Vera rose to her full height, her golden markings glowing faintly with emotion. "I want you to stay." Elias felt the words like a weight and a gift at the same time. "Stay," Vera repeated. Not as a prisoner. Not as an outsider. Stay as her advisor. Her guardian. Her anchor. Elias swallowed. And if I refuse? Vera's face remained calm, but her voice shook ever so slightly. Then I will let you go. I will not keep you against your will. Elias looked away, overwhelmed. Vera stepped closer. Elias. I have been ruler for many years. I have seen alliances form and fade. I have watched people rise and fall. But never have I seen a single person change my daughter's world the way you have. Her voice softened. And never have I feared losing someone's presence in this palace as much as I fear losing yours. The words stunned him. For the first time, he truly understood. Vera did not see him as a tool, not a symbol, not even a representative of humanity. She saw him as someone important, someone who mattered, not only to Lyra, but to her. When Elias left the chamber, he found Lyra waiting outside, her expression tense. What did she say? She asked quickly. Elias exhaled slowly. My people want me back. Lyra froze. And my mother wants me to stay. Lyra looked away, her eyes shimmering. What do you want? I don't know, Elias admitted. Why? Lyra whispered. Because either choice hurts, Elias said softly. If I go, I leave you behind. If I stay, I turn my back on my own people. Lyra closed her eyes. I don't want you to leave. Her voice was so fragile, so honest, that it cut straight into him. Elias stepped closer. Lyra. She looked up at him suddenly. I don't want you to leave, she repeated firmly. You're the only person who treats me like I'm me. Not a title. Not a responsibility. You understand me. Her eyes shone with emotion, rare, unfiltered Solari emotion. You changed me, she whispered. You made me brave. You made me real. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. Lyra, I care about you. A lot. That's why this is so hard. She took a small step toward him. Then stay. I can't promise that, Elias said gently. Why? She asked. Because you're human? No, he said. Because I have to think. I need time. Lyra lowered her head. I understand. But it hurts. Elias lifted her chin with a gentle gesture, a human gesture. Every important choice hurts. For days, he thought. He walked the palace halls. He watched the Solari city. He sat in the harmonic garden, letting the floating stones hum around him. He thought of Earth, of his people, of his duty. And he thought of Lyra, her laughter, her questions, her courage. When he finally made his decision, he went to the balcony, where he often met with her. She stood there, waiting, as if she knew he was coming. Elias approached slowly. I made a choice, he said. Lyra turned to him, eyes steady but full of fear. Tell me. Elias took a breath. I will stay, Lyra gasped softly. But, Elias continued, not forever. I will stay long enough to help you grow into your role. Long enough for you to stand on your own. Long enough for you to not need me every moment. Lyra's eyes filled with a bright, warm light, pure relief. You're staying, she whispered. For now, Elias said with a smile. Because you're important. And because I believe in who you're becoming. Lyra stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him in a Solari-style embrace, gentle, brief, full of meaning. It was the first time she had ever done it. Elias returned the gesture with soft, human warmth. And somewhere else in the palace, Vera Soluni watched from a distance, her heart heavy and relieved at once. She had refused to let him go. But more importantly, he had chosen to stay, not for duty, not for politics, but for the bond they had built. A bond strong enough to reshape an empire.